their own talk show with monthly and weekly slots available in Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1, and on irlonestar.com. Start your own podcast, create your first YouTube channel, and be on TV. Contact Lone Star Community Radio online at irlonestar.com or call the station message line at 936-647-3776 to take your first step into the radio world.
Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and I'm Rick Schisler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and also the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for joining us today. I think we've got a really interesting show lined up for you. We've got a local entrepreneur, small business guy who is in an interesting, very interesting business, and we'll hear from him on how he made that business work, and it's growing, and which is great to hear. So hang on for that. I want to point out, as I do every week, Conroe, Texas, Montgomery County are one of the best places to do business in the entire country. In fact, I read a piece over the weekend, and it was a ranking of the fastest growing cities in America. And 7 of them were in Texas, in the top 10. It was really interesting. Conroe was number 7 on that list now. It's been at the top, but it's amazing how these towns and areas are growing, which growth means business, and the businesses here are growing as well. The Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County and businesses at this point around the world have listeners all around the world to the program, and we come to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve our businesses, and to be part of these conversations that we hope will make a real difference in your business. We try to give you common sense information that you can use in your business. So please pull out your pad or your computer, take some notes. Hopefully you walk away from the show today with an idea or two that can help your business grow and be more profitable. Let you know the show is broadcast live on Conroe FM 104.5 and 106.1, but it also is recorded and will be in the form of a video podcast that will be available when you want it to be available. But right now, if you want to see us as well as listen to us, just go to Facebook or YouTube, look up the Weekly Business Hour page, click on it, and you can watch as well as listen to us live in the show today. Also, I want to remind you, if you haven't listened to the show before, if you've got a question, a comment about the show, a question about your business, that's what we talk about here. We answer questions. Drop me a note, and I will respond. I do respond. I particularly enjoy communicating with small businesses out there around the world, particularly in our country, in our own backyard. So I will respond to you. Just send it here to the station. It's Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. That's Rick at irlonestar.com. Let me know what's going on. Let me know what you think about the show. If you've got ideas about the show, anything, let me know. Well, today, as I promised, we have a very interesting, I guess that's an overused word, but Mike Thomas he's in a very interesting business. He's the proprietor of Razorsharp Productions. Razorsharp produces special events. I call them special because they're events that you and I might buy a ticket to and attend. It's an interesting business that requires, I suspect, lots of planning, and you're working with subcontractors too. I mean, that's got to be a challenge too, to work with a crew that's not necessarily your employees. So very interesting business, Mike.
It's It is definitely a lot of fun. It is interesting. It has its own set of unique challenges like any industry does. But the chance to entertain people and, like you said, work with vendors and partners of all different types around our county, around our area, and even some national, because, one of our events, actually two of our events now have national implications and connections. There's a lot of moving parts, and you're right. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but so rewarding and such a good time.
Well, and to me, it's like putting on a show. Like you're on Broadway or somewhere in a theater or whatever, you're putting up except your show lasts for 2 or 3 days of actually open. So you've got all the prep, all the putting together, if you will, of the props and getting the people and vendors in most cases, lining everybody up, getting them in the right spot. And then you open the door, pull back that curtain, and boy, it's showtime.
Just cross your fingers and hold your breath. Yeah, we call it game day.
Okay.
All that prep before game day, and then game day is here. Maybe that's the old ball player in me, but there's a lot of similarities and connections. With that type of an event. So, it certainly takes. With the knife show, planning for that starts in February, March, and then we hold it every November. So it's almost a year-round type of an event. And then one of the other events that I do, it's smaller and a little more simple, but we're doing 2 of those every single month. So you're just, as soon as you finish one, you got to turn around and crank out and start planning for another one. And even though you try to take a day off or an afternoon off, you're getting messages because there's, so many people and players in those events. So it's, there's not a lot of time to rest, but Rick, it keeps me out of trouble.
well, let me ask you, you brought up an interesting point. So basically you got 2 business approaches you're using. You're doing a repetitive show, meaning, like you said, every other week or what. So, and it's the same show, I imagine, as far as the theme and the content and so on and so forth.
Yep.
Then you've got this once a year, very big, very specialized, that in this case, a knife show. Start planning in February for a November show.
Right.
Through your eyes, what is the biggest challenge for each of those for you as the producer, director of those shows?
The biggest challenge, you're starting with the hard questions already, Rick. All right, here we go. The knife show has so many moving parts, and it's an industry that is evolving quickly. And I think what has really helped us, and I'll shout out to my partner, Jacob Sewell, who runs Brave Hawk Forge. So if I can't at all take credit for running the show. He's an amazing partner. And he's the one that, really reignited the show back in 2019. And maybe we can get into that whole story, because the backstory really is fascinating to me. But I think the biggest challenge is we really have 2 core audiences within the show. One is external. It's, like you said, the ones that pay the tickets, buy the tickets, and come to the show. And so marketing obviously is continually changing and evolving with social media and so many other strategies to market. So, trying to stay on top of that and just to get a great message out to people and keep an event that's fresh and interesting for them to come to. But then we have an internal audience. This show centers around, and it was originally created for local bladesmiths and knife makers who had been on and been contestants on Forged in Fire, the History Channel. It was an opportunity for them just to come together as friends and buddies and part of a brotherhood of that guild, that knife makers brotherhood, and just a chance for them to show what they do, show their craftsmanship, and really a chance to sell some knives and meet their fans. Because once they'd been on the show, they had developed a fandom and people that were following them on social media and so forth. Well, their needs are changing as well. So I think one of the biggest challenges is to make sure you're staying, as a business owner, you have to listen, right? You've got 2 ears, you've got one mouth, like Mama always used to say. You've got to continually be in touch with your audience, right? And know what their expectations are and what they want and need. If you put your product out there without knowing what your customers' needs are, then you could easily miss the mark. Am I right?
Just like any business, really.
Like in any business. So that is probably one of the biggest challenges is, because they're having to respond to their own customers. So you get into, well, what product do their customers want? What price point do their customers want? Well, now these knife makers are our customer. So how do we make sure that they are set up for success? And how are we presenting the right opportunity for them? So it's staying in contact with that customer base, but then not also losing touch with those ticket buyers that want to come to our event, because this is a Montgomery County, this is a Conroe-based entertainment event. And on any given weekend, how many entertainment options are there now in Montgomery County? 20, 30, 40. I mean, I went to 2 concerts just this last weekend, right? So there's so much to do here. So we're always having to look at what does the entertainment market look like in our area right now, and how do we present an entire show that is appealing? We can't do the same show year after year, because we can't have our attendees go, oh yeah, I saw that last year. I don't want to go again. I already did that. Been there. Well, so that's probably the biggest challenge with the knife show right there. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. And you've educated me personally, and I would assume our listeners. The fact is, your marketing, the steps you take to run your business are very similar, or if not the same, of any business. And that's important for people to understand, I feel, as far as building a business. What you learn here can work here. It's never 100%, but it's close, because every business is unique. And in your case, you taught me in conversation we've had, first it's entertainment value, which I would think knife show, me personally, knife show means exhibitors, people looking at knives, trading knives, buying knives, whatever. And I don't think about the entertainment value that you have to produce and that you have to keep fresh, just like marketing a product or services. You've got to constantly be adjusting and keeping your ears open, your eyes open, and figuring out, like your mom says, you got 2 of them. Your ears are very important, but I digress. I don't want to get listening and seeing are 2 different things. But anyway, that's another conversation. But my point is for people to realize what their business really is. And a lot of times I've had clients that they really don't understand it, even though they might have been in business for some time. And in your case, it's an entertainment business. And that's a great example, because, again, to an outsider like me, it's a knife show, right? But that's not what it really is.
It's so much more than that. And when this opportunity fell in my lap, and and we had the idea to do it the first time in 2018. The first show was right here at Montgomery County Fairgrounds, November of 2018, and I had a partner then who presented the idea. He knew that I had done and produced events prior. I wasn't really producing any events at that time. I was doing some volunteer things, but just through getting to know him and our conversations, he knew that going back into the day, I had produced concerts and sporting events. So, like you said, things that had a high entertainment value. I worked in minor league sports, never quite made it to the majors, but I produced, some basketball games and things like that. And radio promotions. I worked for 3 different radio stations back in the early part of my career. So we were always doing promotions and events and things like that. So everything I'd ever done had that promotional background, that fun entertainment background to it. So when this opportunity came up and I researched what was going on with these knife shows that were suddenly popping up around the country from these guys who'd been on the show due to the popularity of the Forged and Fire show, everything that I found, even the largest show in the country, which is put on by a major multimedia company, Blade. They have a international magazine, and they draw 10, 15,000 people to their show every single year in Atlanta. But everything that I could find, it was nothing more than a room full of tables with knife makers standing there with their knives. And, obviously they were fantastic, the craftsmanship, beautiful product, amazing, but there wasn't a lot of entertainment value to it. And I was like, what's the real draw here? I mean, if you're a knife enthusiast, this is really cool. This is amazing. But to me, it's nothing more than a room full of knives, and tables full of that. I was like, what's the draw? How is this going to draw somebody who may be entertained by something here, but doesn't really follow these guys, doesn't know anything about it? We wanted to be more than just a knife show, more than just a gun show style of an event. So I asked Guy at that time, I was like, why can't we just do the contest on the show? Now there's a mountain of logistics behind that and safety factors behind all of that, because we're talking, 1,000-degree forges, and you're inviting the public right up there close to where they can watch and see it. So, a lot went into that. But the question was, we're here to entertain. Let's entertain. This is what people want to see. How do we make it work? So you can imagine that's a long story, really short here today, but we did it. And we are the only show in the country that really does this type of TV contest simulation with live forging and live judging of the blades. So it's, there's a lot to it. There's a lot going on and a lot for people to see. And I think one of the most rewarding things that I hear every year is when knife enthusiasts and fans come out, but they bring sons, they bring girlfriends, wives, they bring people that aren't necessarily big fans. And I overhear those conversations where those non-fans go, wow, this was really cool. I had no idea. There was a lot here that's cool and something to see and do. And that's when you know you've won, right? Because you've provided something that otherwise they wouldn't have known was a good time and a great experience.
Well, and like you said earlier, you're competing with all these other opportunities and options that are in the area. So you got to really have something different and very enjoyable. Well, Mike, we've come to the end of our first segment of the show. We're going to take a break here, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back, we're going to dig down a little deeper in some of the shows, in particular the knife show and some of the other shows that Mike has on the front burner are already in place, so we can all learn how a production of this magnitude goes together. And again, draw those similarities to every business. Every business has those similarities. So please stay with us. We'll be right back with you.
Don't forget to download the Lone Star Community Radio app from your Google Play or Apple Store. Bring Montgomery County's community radio with you anywhere with your smartphone or tablet. If you are in the Conroe area, tune in on FM. That's Conroe's FM 104.5, 106.1. If you are on the computer, bookmark irlonestar.com as your internet radio station. A Lone Star Community Radio. Broadcasting 24/7 from the heart of downtown Conroe, Texas.
An estimated 1 in 10 births will result in a neonatal intensive care stay, also known as the NICU. Overnight, a family can find themselves and their newborn baby in a critical situation. The Mila Foundation financially and spiritually assists families in need. If you would like to volunteer or become a monthly sponsor, please visit us at www.themilafoundation.org. Again, that's www.themilafoundation.org.
Did you know
because
that there
every
are
life
over
matters.
153 million orphans in the world today? The sad reality is 99% of those kids will likely never be adopted. Core Love is an organization right here in Conroe that takes care of orphan children in Haiti, Honduras, and India. We bring the love of Jesus by providing their 6 basic needs of clean water, proper food, healthcare, education, job skills, and a loving home. Visit corelove.org. That's CORELUV.org. Will you help defend the orphan?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schisler. I'm your host. Glad to have you with us today for our conversation with Mike Thomas. Mike is the proprietor of Razorsharp Productions. His company is a producer director of events. And the one, Mike, I guess you're known for, and we spent a bit of time talking about, is the knife show, the Texas Custom Knife Show, which is coming up in November.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And so what are some particulars on this year's show?
Well, we'll do a couple of our standard things that we always do, but we're really going back to the basics here and trying to focus more on the local business owners, which are those local knife makers, right? That's the reason we started the show. But it has really grown to some heights that we just never expected. Some of it due to persistence, but as a business owner, sometimes you get a little bit of luck that happens, and you really try to lean into that to build on it. We'd always, from the start of the show years ago, we'd always said, wouldn't it be cool to have, one or two of the judges from the History Channel come out? Well, that was a pie in the sky kind of a dream. They were TV network guys, right? But you send some emails, and sometimes you just never know how lucky you might get. And in 2022, 2 years ago, we got a response by Doug Marcaida, the known celebrity judge on the show. And he's like, hey, I'm interested in coming out. Tell me what's going on. And so we had a few conversations with him, and he said, yeah, let's do it. Let's go. So he came out and joined us in 22, and all of a sudden, here's Doug Marcaida on our own stage. We were still doing the show at Southern Star Brewery at that point. And then it just kind of really took off from there. So again, that brings an entertainment value that of the other shows around the country. Nobody really has that kind of draw or an appeal, and he's such a great guy and so much fun to have around. So the shows continued to grow, and that brought a lot of notoriety and popularity to it. And, we just do a lot of fun things with him there. But what's going on this year is putting the spotlight back on the knife makers and giving them more stage time, face time, where people can learn about what they do and how they do it. And so that's going to be something that's very fun, and we're going to do some interviews with them, do some special things like within their booth, and let fans get to know more about the local knife makers themselves. So,
well, it sounds like, and then in the previous discussions you and I've had, is a great opportunity, and truly, as you and I've discussed, an entertainment opportunity. You start planning for this in February, I believe you said it earlier. So you've put, 8-9 months of planning into the show. Obviously, planning is a big part of a successful show. Share with us some of the key elements of the plan that you put together.
Well, we're a two-person operation, like I said, and typically events of this size are done by a full committee or even a company. And this is a two-man show. Jake handles everything really in regard to the knife makers, but the social media, the marketing, our whole budget is sponsor-driven. So shout out to a lot of our local and national sponsors. The city of Conroe is a big supporter, so we're starting meetings with them as early as February, March. Lansdowne Moody, Kubota has come on as a great partner this year. We started working with them last year, and they've really increased their support this year. So sponsor relations, those business connections, you've got to get in early in the year to meet with people's budgets, right? So those types of meetings start early on. And of course, you're starting with the social media and things like that, just to keep people's eyes and ears on your event year round. So you stay relevant. So that's really what goes on in the first 2 to 3 months. And again, with knife makers and some of the other vendors, you got to start getting, on their calendars early as well. And then again, Jacob and I are always talking early on in the year, like what we just talked about. What are we going to do different this year? What worked? What didn't work? And what are we hearing and what do we know? We're having those conversations about, ears open. What did we hear and what do we need to do differently? And then starting to put plans in motion for that right off the bat.
So 8-9 months later, the show is on, as they say. And this year, November 9th and 10th, the show is scheduled. Okay, you're in the 24, 48 hours before the show opens. Any particular challenge, or is it just you wait for things to come your way and then deal with them?
Well, I'd like to say, and going into our 7th year, a lot of it is, at that point you're almost automated. You're just doing some of the last finishing touches. People are starting to arrive in town. You're doing radio interviews and last minute promotions. So if you've done everything right, and we usually get pretty close at this point. It's just those last finishing touches. So you're doing last minute promotions. You're picking up some of the logistical things that you need. Confirming, really, the last 48 hours is just a lot of confirmations with security, vendors, food, all of those types of things, all of the details. At that point, you're just, making calls and making confirmations and just getting everything in place. So,
yeah, well, it sounds like you're well prepared. Do you guys, I have to ask the question, every small business, a survey several years ago showed the percentage of small businesses actually prepare some kind of plan, business plan, marketing, whatever you want to call it. I do a one-page business plan. But it's not a good look. I mean, they don't do it. They don't write it down so they can refer back to it so they can measure their success. You do any kind of written plan that you and your partner can share?
I mean, absolutely. There's lists of lists, right? There's spreadsheets that we, to-do lists and contact lists and our list of different vendor groups, again, our different audiences and everything. So there's spreadsheets and Google Docs going back and forth between he and I, because he and I both have full-time jobs. He's got family. I've got 3 beautiful sons here living in the Woodlands as well, but he's an electrician by trade. You know this, I'm a State Farm agent by trade, 9 to 5. So, I mean, this is something that just started as a small side hustle, as people call, and it's grown into its own full-time job. So we definitely have information sharing using technology and things going back and forth. And I'm still old school, right? I mean, just like you, I carry around a notebook, right? And like that idea pops into your head when you're driving down the road, or you're sitting in the office or whatever, and you just scribble something down. So I have notebooks, notes on my phone, you name it. But those get put onto to-do lists and organization lists and things to talk about. And of course, calendars. You're always looking at deadlines and chances to meet with people and talk with people like this. We've got meetings lined up the rest of this week.
So basically, would it be fair to say that your written planning is checklist, basically? I'm sure you do have a lot of checklist.
Yeah, it's very list driven, and again, you're watching a show or you're listening to somebody else and you hear another good idea and that spurs an idea for you. And so you scribble something down. I don't know of many business owners that I've talked to that don't have a thought at 3 a.m, like something just in the middle of the night, you're dreaming about sitting on a beach or whatever. And next thing you know, some business idea pops into your head and you wake up, scribble it down and try to go back and get a little more sleep. But yeah, we're very list driven. And I think that's what you have to do in order to put these type of events together, because there's so many moving. I just can't repeat it enough. There's so many people involved and so many moving parts. So.
Well, you assemble again. When I was thinking about this show today, I thought about you more like a general contractor, and you've got to reach out primarily to subs. You've got to depend on a lot of people that you really don't have direct control. And since I grew up in a family business that had a GC subsidiary, I got to observe firsthand that that's your own set of challenges, getting all those pieces moving around, because they're doing other things. They have other projects, other jobs that they're working on.
They do, but I think one of the important things to realize is everybody involved and everyone who's stepped forward and come forward that wants to be involved in this, we all have the same goal, and that's, to successfully run a business. And, we have over 100 different vendors between knife makers and the non-knife vendors, just local folks that make and sell their own different types of products, that come out. So literally there's we rent, the pavilion at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds. It's as big as a football field. And we fill that whole thing with vendors and the entertainment and the stage. So, but what I wanted to say is, what I was thinking is, all these people have the same goal in mind. But if you've touched their heart, you've listened to them and found out what's important to them, then everybody's committed to doing the same thing. It's like one of the quotes that has always resonated with me going way back forever was Howard Schultz's comment when he first turned Starbucks around. He'd been running it a few years, and it was still in Washington, around Seattle, and it was running into the ground, and it wasn't going well. And he stepped back at the business and looked at it and said, what do we do differently? And he came in shortly after that and talked to his team, and he said, we are no longer in the coffee business serving people. We're in the people business serving coffee. And he marks that as the pivotal moment when little small Starbucks became what we know Starbucks is today. And I've just tried to keep that philosophy in mind, whether it's the small town farm kid in me. But if you're taking care of the people, then they'll take care of you. And I've tried to just always bring that to business.
No doubt about that. You have an interesting story, at least I feel that way, and I'm sure that could be helpful to others. You've expanded your business. I mean, the production of shows. You've got your every other week. You're working on some other concepts in the future. Just share a bit, because to me it was interesting how you connected. Particularly on your martial arts program that it just share that, because as business people, we got to keep our eyes and ears open and keep our nose to what we're doing, and then good things flow from it. So
good things can flow from that. So I mean, I certainly give a lot of credit to the blessings from up above, but again, it goes back to taking care of people, and then you have the chance to do more for them, and they do more for you. After the 2019 Texas Custom Knife Show, the second year, those vendors that make your local arts and crafts, like I just mentioned a minute ago, a few of them came to me and said, and this is before you saw the pop-up vendor markets all over like you do now. That wasn't a common thing in 2019. And they came to me and said, hey, could you do maybe something just for us so that we can continue marketing and selling our own products that we make, candles and home decor and clothing, and, like you see at all these markets now. And I said, yeah, that's great. Let's look into this. That sounds like a neat idea. So again, me being me in the way that I was raised and brought up, we put a spin on it. We gave it a brand and a name. We called it Vintage Village Market. And we scheduled the first Vintage Village Market to take place at a local Conroe church in April of 2020. Well, some other things got in the way in April of 2020 because the world shut down. So we put that off for almost another year, but we did launch it in March of 21. And I did it for about 2 years, and then some career changes in my world shut that down. But we relaunched Vintage Village in February of this year. And some local companies have been kind enough to let us set up shop and do the market. We've now landed, and the market's doing extremely well at Sawyer Park Ice House, still here in Montgomery County. So we've been there 2 of the last 3 Saturdays. So we did it twice this month, and that's starting to go really, really well. But again, Rick, it was just a matter of trying to take care of those. I mean, we were so focused on doing a knife show, but somewhere in the process, we did something right to take care of those other constituents, those other vendors, right, who weren't our core customer base, but we connected. They did well. They liked the way we put events on. So they stepped forward and said, hey, can you do something for us? And here we are now. We're doing it twice a month, and I'm looking for a second location as well to do Vintage Village Market. So one thing, spawned and spun out of another thing. And they're just great opportunities, great people to work with, and it's all just come together.
That's one of the reasons I encourage my clients to, if they're looking to expand their revenue into other areas or related, is keep your eyes open. I mean, just keep those ears open, right?
Yep.
And think about it. And you can take your talents, your business assets, and utilize them doing maybe something that's related but unrelated, but still it would be a good fit. You have to be careful about that as well. But I think that's a neat way to grow business. It's an internal way to grow business. You're not building more widgets, or you're not building or selling a widget with gold leaf on it. You are creating a business that's using your assets, your spreadsheets, your checklist to some extent, right? You got a playbook, notebook with here's how we do the vendor village. And then you've gone on and you're working to leverage that into other shows and so on and so forth. And
well, don't think that, back in the early day, there weren't, doing those sporting events, there weren't some miscues and some drop balls and things that slipped through the cracks, right? I mean, early in business, we all make our mistakes, and all you can hope to do is learn from them. And so I think one thing that we do well at the knife show is, because we do prepare, and we're getting things in place lined up now, and we're 10 weeks out from the event, but, we're meeting with people and getting all the details ironed out. So when we get down to it, we're not so focused on just trying to keep, our finger in the dam to stop the leaks. We can focus on the people at that point and build the relationships and connections. And I think, one of the things that still surprises me to this day, but I love it the most, is the chance to work with Doug Markida. Doug, the judge from the Forged and Fire, came out in 22, came out last year in 23. This guy does shows around the country. Literally, he does shows around the world. And of course, he's been on TV now for almost 10 years. But he called me right after this last show, and he said, you guys are really doing, a good thing with the knife. And I was like, well, thank you, Doug. We work hard at it, and it's continued to grow. And he presented an idea that he had. He's originally a martial arts instructor before he got into edge weapons and before he got into television. He very much believes in his martial arts. And he's like, I want to put together a festival that's different than any other. He goes, I want to get instructors of schools in a local community working together rather than working against each other as competitors. Karate guys working with Taekwondo guys, Kung Fu working with Krav Maga instructors. I want to bring them all together to build that community so that the students are learning not only different disciplines, but they're learning values. And together we can be stronger as a community. He goes, "Are you interested in that?" And I'm like, "Okay, martial arts. I've never done that. Here's a whole new angle." But again, like when you diversify your business, you take the same core values, the same core processes that help make your foundation of your core business, and you just to apply them to the next and to the next. So we're now working on the first ever Doug Marcaida Local Heroes Martial Arts Festival. We tried to put it together for the fall, but it looks like we're going to need to move it to spring of 2025. Another lesson in business is sometimes timing is everything, and sometimes you can rush because you're excited, and that's kind of the danger of being an entrepreneur. You can try to rush things to market, but you've got to do the right thing at the right time. So there's some more lessons to be learned there. But something great spun, another something great. So.
It just keeps growing. It's amazing to me what you're doing. Well, as we wind down today, let's back up and kind of give everybody the particulars and what you're doing at the knife show, the one coming up in November. Mm-hmm. Tell everybody what's going to go on, why they should attend. It's your turn.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's again, 2 years ago, we expanded it to a 2-day event. So it's 2 full days, November 9th and 10th at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds. Again, they're going to see live forging. You actually have the chance to come out. One of our guys, he comes out of Missouri, actually, but he is a former forged and fire contestant. In his booth, you can sign up and then stand shoulder to shoulder with him for about half an hour and actually make your own souvenir blade. So he'll show you how. Obviously, all safety's in place, but that's something that the kids love to do. He's wonderful working with youth. It's not just an adult experience. So boys and girls can stand there with him and safely make their own little, small souvenir blade. The kind that we all want, the big ones, the pretty ones, those take hours and hours to make. So, but you can put together something in 30 minutes and take it home as a souvenir. Folks can meet with dozens and dozens of these knife makers from around Texas. If you are into knife collecting, or if you need a knife for hunting or for your own kitchen use, there'll be thousands of knives available for sale, but these guys take custom orders as well. So if you have an interest, a love, a passion, or just a need for the tool of a knife, you'll literally have your choice of the best that you can find. Doug Marcaida will be there. So you have a chance to do Q&A with him, get some pictures, meet and greet, autographs, all of that kind of stuff. That's a lot of fun. One of the neatest things that we do is we raise money for Operation Red Wings Foundation. We always try to give back, which is another key element to a great business, right? So we've always tried to do that. Operation Red Wings raises money for our veterans, for our U.S. veterans in PTSD treatment. So we have an auction, so please come out and support that. Tickets are only $12 for the day. So we try very hard to keep it very affordable, but there's a lot to see, a lot to do, and it is a very family-friendly, very family-fun event. And again, all of those non-knife vendors are there as well, and it's right before the holiday shopping season, so you can get in some early gift shopping as well. So there's a lot to do, and it really surprises everybody how much fun it is.
Well, that sounds great to me. I need to put it on my calendar as well. And director of events as a business. It's got its own wrinkles, but it's a business like any other business. So.
It sure does. I guess a smart guy would at least mention the website, TexasCustomKnifeShow.com. I got to talking about the events. I didn't mention how you can get more information, social media and things like that. But no, thank you. We've had great conversations, off microphone, of course, as well, and we'll continue to have those. But thank you for this opportunity. There's so many stories behind this, and so many times that we didn't think the show would continue before COVID, during COVID. So I guess one of the last things that I would say is don't ever give up the dream. Right? Find a way. Sometimes those resources and connections are there. If your heart and your passion are there, then there's still a will. There's still a way. So
that's great encouragement and great advice. One more time, website.
TexasCustomKnifeShow.com. And again, to thank you to our sponsors, especially the City of Conroe and Lansdowne Moody, and come out and help us support Operation Red Wings as well. But follow our social media. We're on everywhere where you find social media, all your choice of platforms, and the website, and you get tickets on the website. Thank you, Rick. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And don't forget, folks, November 9th and 10th at the Montgomery County Fairgrounds. Well, in the second half of today's show, I've got two items on the agenda right now. The first one is entitled, it came in from one of our listeners, Donna. How much debt is enough? I thought it was an interesting question, so I hope you'll stick around and listen to that. And then the tip of the week is building your own sales strategy, the strategy that fits your business. It's very important. It's not a generic thing. It's got to be very personal. So I encourage you, please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Our talk shows and music shows are looking for sponsors. Want to expand your brand awareness? Reach the hyper-local audience in Montgomery County? Lone Star Community Radio sponsorships accomplish this. Want to see our stats and rates? Check out irlonestar.com/sponsor for more information. Or call in and leave us a message at 936-647-3776 with your question. Get seen on TV or YouTube and heard on our podcast, FM, and internet radio. Sponsor your local radio station with Lone Star Community Radio. A Lone Star Community Radio is Montgomery County's radio station with talk, music, weather, and traffic for Montgomery County. Have a question or comment about one of our shows? Want to know how to reach a host? Just contact the station at irlonestar.com or call in and leave a message at 936-647-3776. Get involved with your community with Lone Star Community Radio.
Hey y'all, it's DJ Mike from Dance Time in Texas. Join me Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. as I count down the top 10 Texas Red Dirt songs that are packing the dance floor. I'll be featuring local artists and the story behind the hits, shows in the area, as well as new songs that make you want to dance. It's Dance Time in Texas with DJ Mike on Lone Star Community Radio, 104.5 KCZW and 106.1 KZCC, Conroe, Texas, or online, irlonestar.com.
Path to the Plate is a research-based education program that helps consumers understand how their food choices impact their health by making the connection to agriculture. Learning about how food is grown and produced, and how consumers can make better food choices for themselves and their families, Path to the Plate is all about dispelling myths and misconceptions. Find out more online at pathtotheplate.tamu.edu. We are Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, helping Texans make their lives better.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're, of course, listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schisler, your host. I hope you were able to catch the full conversation we just had with Mike Thomas. It's an amazing business, being in the event production, directing business. And Mike had some real good advice, I believe, for any business. And one of the reasons his business is thriving is because he makes it all about his customers. And I know we've all heard that from a variety of sources, but it's very, very interesting to hear his perspective on that, and then to see or hear the results of what he's done, which I think it's just fantastic. I'm going to go to the mailbag first. We're a little short on time today. The conversation with Mike was so good it ran over a bit, but Donna sent us a question a couple weeks ago, and it was about debt. And basically she asked, how much debt is enough? I thought that was an interesting question because, you know, we take on debt as we build a business, whether it's financing some rolling stock such as a truck, or buying a new machine, or building a location that we own. There's all kinds of ways to spend money to make up for deficits, losses as we're building the business. Lots of ways to spend it. And also, what people miss, and I find this is, and I've got a couple of case studies, is people never really consider how much debt is enough. In other words, enough to finance their business, to get where they want to go with the business, but also enough for them. And that's one of the things I think is critical, is that you have to evaluate how much debt you personally, as the owner, can stand. In other words, day in and day out, emotionally, you owe money to someone. How much money is it going to take before that becomes too much of an issue for you to deal with on a day-to-day basis? So my first observation is, how much debt can you personally stand? Just bluntly said, how much how much debt can you personally stand? I apologize. Got a tongue twister going and there wasn't even one there. The second one's a little more generic, a little more black and white, and that observation is, how much can you pay back? This gets back into your financials and going through and determining where you want to take the business, how far you want to go. And you're seeing a common theme, and I want to digress just a bit. All of this requires you to have some kind of business plan, a strategic plan, a marketing plan, something that you can measure and mark your progress to make sure you're on track. So when you take on debt, there's additional pressure to do these things, to have a set of financials, to do a budget, because you need to mark as you go. Otherwise, and I've seen it happen, one day you wake up and you realize there's no way I'm going to pay this back. And that should never, ever happen unless just a catastrophe strikes your business, or you made a bad decision, got in the wrong business. But if your business is working day in and day out and growing and profitable, you don't want to end up owing too much debt where you'll never pay it back. So it takes some financial projections. And that's one of the things, building a budget or financial projections 2, 3, 5 years out, trying to see where you're going. In other words, to justify, to support the debt is so important. Most of the time, financial projections, unfortunately, particularly the first time around for any business owner, tend to be over-optimistic. So be careful. That's my third observation, is be careful and try to build your financial projections, particularly if you haven't done them before. Talk with your CPA and have them look at them. And there are courses and classes that are available online or at local community colleges that can give you the ABCs. So you do that part hopefully better, but also where you project, the crystal ball in 5 years. What's your revenue going to be? Where's it going to come from? How profitable is it going to be? What are your margins? Those kinds of things. Fourth, and really to me at the heart of all this, my observation is, be sure that when you're taking on debt in your business, that your family, those that will be impacted indirectly or directly, depending on how you want to look at it, are on board. In other words, they don't have to sign off necessarily on the amount of the debt. Now, they may have to sign a guarantee for their spouse, but the idea that they know you're borrowing money, you're leveraging the situation, you believe in what you're doing, but there also potentially could be a fallback, that you have to fall back and reconstitute or shut the business down. And that's my fifth observation, is have a scenario that you have looked at with all honesty, that what does it look like for you and your related indirect business partners, typically your family. What does that look like if you in fact fail, you can't pay the debt? What will that scenario look like? And try to make sure you understand and will be able to work if in fact, unfortunately, that happens. A lot of this is emotional, but it needs to be done. It's very, very important that you take a little bit of time, work on your business, And in this case, your assignment is to evaluate the debt. How much is enough? And that's determined by how much debt you can personally stand, that you emotionally, day in and day out, can carry, how much you can pay back by the numbers, a good set of financial projections. Watch being too optimistic in those projections, the revenue particularly. Make sure everyone who lives under your roof or depends on you, i.e. this business, that they're on board, that they understand what you're doing in a sense that you are risking, but you feel there'll be great rewards. And then take a few moments and consider, if it fails, what does that look like and how will I deal with it? Don't need to be surprised if, unfortunately, that happens. Well, Donna, I hope that we've helped you in talking about how much debt is enough. A lot of people feel that's simply black and white, a set of figures, projections. I think it's a lot more, especially when it's a small business with one or two owners, first time out particularly. You need to evaluate some of those personal, emotional things. Well, let's switch gears. We've got a few minutes left here and talk about sales strategy. We may have to continue this later, but I want to get out, at least on today's show, some of the basics of building a sales strategy for your company. And this is even if you, the owner, which is not unusual for a startup, are the primary salesperson. This doesn't just apply to people who have been hired specifically to be a salesperson or sales management. You see, obviously, strategic plans put together for that group of people. But I believe that you, as the lead salesperson in the beginning of the business, or maybe much longer than that, need to have a strategy. And the one thing that's critical is you need to make sure that your product or service that you're attempting to sell, to grow, to manufacture, to distribute, all those different things that come into making a sale and delivering the product. Make sure that your sales strategy, along with your marketing, present that product or service in a way that it's meaningful to the group of potential customers that you have. In other words, you just can't put something on top of a table, hang it in the window, pass out free samples. You've got to stake out your position, your unique selling presentation or unique selling proposition. You've got to do that. But it's important, and this is part of your strategy as you develop that. Another thing to remember is a sales strategy, is not a static plan, okay? It is an ever-evolving approach on how you plan to successfully sell your products and or services. So keep in mind, it is not a static document. That doesn't mean it changes every day, every week, every month, but it needs to be updated differently than some of the other plans, such as a business plan, a strategic plan, marketing plan, that you can do once a year, but you should be reviewing at least monthly to make sure you're still on target and then making allowable to make minor adjustments. But I believe you want to follow the plan till you recognize that it's just unworkable. Then you can start, whether it's within the year or after the year's been completed. But in the case of sales strategy, sales strategic plan, it's got to be a little more flexible so that it can change with the market, so to speak. And that's very, very important. And finally, today, I want you to get one thing. A sales strategy is not the same as a sales process. I hope you understand that and see that. With the process, you start with, you send out an email blast, or you send out a flyer, or you buy a billboard, whatever advertising, and then you have a follow-up, a way to capture contact information on prospects and so on and so forth. And you send them 3 different emails in a row in certain timing. That's a process. We're talking about a strategy, which is a strategy of how you're going to sell that product to individuals, convert them from just being a prospect to being a customer. It's very important. And from that, one of the things that comes or that you have is your sales process. So building a strategic plan is important. You want to build that pipeline of quality leads, and then you want to make sure you sell the product in a way that people come back again and again. It's very, very important. Well, I thank you for joining us this week on the Weekly Business Hour. I hope you enjoyed our guest, Mike Thomas, and thank you again, Mike, for joining us today and sharing your knowledge and experience with being an event director, producer, and how the success of that business is very similar, if not the same, as any other business. Put a note on your calendar. Join us next week, right here on Monday at 11 p.m., and look for a video podcast of the show later in the week, usually on Wednesday, under the Weekly Business Hour page on irlonestar.com, onebestconsult.com, Facebook, YouTube, and on and on. So just find the Weekly Business Hour page and click on it, and you'll be able to watch this show and a lot of shows that have taken place in the past. And finally, until next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.